5:30. Good evening. Welcome to the Calexico City Council, Calexico Redevelopment Successor Agency, Calexico Financing Authority regular meeting agenda at the City of Calexico, Fernando Torres, Council Chambers, 608 Heber Avenue, Calexico. Wednesday, August the 18th, 2021. It is 5:30 p.m. We are calling the meeting to order. Due to the declaration of emergency, this meeting is being held pursuant to authorization for the governor's executive orders. Some or all the city council members may participate in this meeting by teleconference as authorized by the executive order N2920 issued by Governor of California on March 17, 2020. Pursuant to Imperial County Public Health Department guidelines, city council meetings are now open for public attendance at 100% capacity of the council chambers, and all persons entering City Hall will be required to wear a face mask. Public participation will continue to be available in the following ways. Members of the public are encouraged to watch the meeting via live stream at hhcp communityspectrum.org live at 6:30 p.m. or via the Calexico City Hall Facebook page at https://www.facebook.com City of Calexico CA. Members of the public will be able to make public comments in the following ways. In person, submit comments via email by 2 p.m. on Wednesday, August 18, 2021, to our city clerk, Gigi Garcia at calexicoca.gov, or via fax at 760-768-2103. These comments will be read aloud during the meeting. I will now have roll call. Mr. Ordeña.
Present.
Mrs. Romo.
Present.
Mr. Garcia. Here. Mr. Fernandez.
Here.
And myself, Javier Moreno. We have quorum. Thank you. Public comments. Not to exceed 3 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the City Council on closed session items only. During the current state of emergency, public comments will be received in the following ways. In-person comments, the mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name and place of residence for the record. While members of the public are encouraged to participate, it is unlawful to disturb or delay the council meeting with a personal or slanderous remarks. Submit public comments via email by 2 p.m. on Wednesday, August 18, 2021, at the city clerk's office, Gigi Garcia at calexicoca.gov, or via fax to 760-768-2103. Any comments received during or after the meeting will be distributed to the City Council and retained for the official record. The City Council is prohibited by state law from making action or discussing items not included on the printed agenda. And I don't believe we have any comments. There's no public comments at this time. We now adjourn to closed session. Development Successor Agency, Calexico Finance Authority, regular session. It is 6:35. A call to order, and I'll have a roll call. Councilmember Ureña.
Here.
Councilwoman Romo.
Present.
Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
Councilwoman Fernandez.
Here.
I, Mayor Javier Moreno, here. Can please stand up for a pledge of allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And you read the mission statement.
Sure. Ready? Together?
We pledge to provide effective and efficient services in a courteous and respectful manner
To improve the quality of life for all in our unique border community. Viva Calexico.
And I'll do a small invocation. Please bow our heads. God of peace, we invite you to preside over this meeting. Even if we have different opinions, give us unity and spirit. Help us to each listen politely and others share their points of view. Help us to work as a unified team in combining ideas for a great outcome. Amen. Please be seated.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I would like to inform the council that we have two emergency items to consider. One item, and I'll read subject lines: authorize city manager to enter into a subordination agreement with Oryx Real Estate Capital relating to the Calexico Family Apartment Project and execute any other document reasonably necessary as determined by the city manager and city attorney to be necessary or desirable in connection therewith. The second item is adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Calexico authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute Airport Rescue Grant Program offer agreement and/or any documentation pertaining to grant number 306-0034-022-2021 with the Federal Aviation Administration for the Calexico International Airport. At this time, Mayor, if you would wish to consider these items to go after item number 14 on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Figueroa. Before I do the consent agenda, I'd like to have city attorney provide us with the closed session.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. City Council meeting closed session on the two items, 1 and 2 described on today's agenda. We received direction on both those items, but no reportable actions were taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campos. So now we make a motion, somebody make a motion for the approval of the agenda, including those two items Mr. Figueroa just read. And just for the record, I am going to clarify that we are going to put item number 15 as adopt a resolution, and then item number 16 as the authorize the city manager to enter a subordination agreement. Correct. So I now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with two items.
Motion to approve.
Okay, anybody second it?
Second.
Any discussion?
That's just the consent agenda, right?
Right.
Yeah. No, it's already.
This is for,
I think that was to approve the agenda with
To approve the
change.
agenda.
Yeah.
With the
To approve the agenda, not
Right.
just, so, there was a first, right, already?
Yes, first and second, and then discussion.
Okay, discussion then, I would like to pull item number 12.
Okay.
So, should we go in, if, pull and table it, actually.
Okay.
Thank you.
What was the motion?
What is the motion?
He wants to pull item number 12, table the item
Different motion.
To pull and pull and
with the
table?
motion.
I have
Pull and
motion
table.
in the
Pull and table, I will second that motion.
I have motion to put in the table and second for Mr. Ureña.
No, you amended your motion,
Different
you had a second,
Yeah,
so then,
yeah.
go for a vote.
To read it again.
Yes, Mr. Aranya, is it clear?
No, it's not clear. Where are we at?
Okay, so,
You had already motioned, right, to approve the agenda. Then in discussion, I actually suggested to pull and table item number 12. So now if you amend your motion, and Ms. Romo says you amend the motion, if you, that's what you should choose to do.
yes.
Yeah.
So then we can go ahead and proceed.
so it's clear?
The motion was made by Councilmember Romo.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Si quieres enmendar tu moción. No, quieres que se quede en la agenda. Okay, I will.
so if
Yes,
we have a
right.
first and a second, that we need to deal with that motion first before we take another motion.
Oh, okay, I see. So we have to
Vote.
vote on the approval as motioned.
Right, Ms. Romo said, and you seconded.
Yes, okay, está bien.
Was that clear, or?
Yeah, it is clear. We have to go for a vote.
Okay?
She's not accepting my change.
No, it's not, okay.
So we can
All right,
vote on
so
that.
it's clear now. Okay, so I'll take a vote. All those in favor?
No? No, because she wants to keep her motion as is, without my suggestion to pull the item and table it.
Right.
So
So you
is-
say no, Ms. Fernandez? No. No? I say no, and you? Ms. Romo?
Aye.
Aye. So motion's denied, 3-2.
Okay.
All right, so,
Okay.
New motion?
So,
Other
I motion to accept the agenda tabling item, pulling and tabling item number 12,
And including the emergency.
including the emergency.
including, yeah. Anybody second that? Second. So Ms. Fernandez, second. Any discussion? No discussion,
What is
right?
the reason? Yes, what is the reason, Camilo?
No. If you
Yes,
ask,
it's table for the number 12 or what?
okay, but that's not the, you need to state your reason. Discussion is you need to state, it's a question you gotta ask, in other words.
Okay, this is.
So what is the reason you're opposing or stating?
Okay.
It's, you have first, second, you can deliberate.
I choose not to.
Second and the second.
Okay, so we'll vote. Is it clear, right?
I'm clear on my motion.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
No.
No.
Okay, motion's carried, 3-2.
To table.
Okay, moving on, we have now presentations. We have the presentation by Jeanette Angulo, Director, Imperial County Public Health.
Mayor, if you allow me, I was notified that Ms. Angulo is on her way down. So if it's okay with you and the council, we can proceed with the following presentation while she gets here.
Okay, thank you. We'll stand by. She's here. Thank you. So next presentation is by Mr. Daniel Hernandez, Senior Resident Engineer, Caltrans, regarding project number 11-080284, State Route 98, widening between Ollie Avenue to 0.1 mile east of Rockwood Avenue.
Engineer's not here.
So we'll stand by for him?
With the next one, please.
Okay, thank you. We'll stand by. Now for a presentation by Jeff Katz from JK Architecture regarding the Heber Park Expansion Project Conceptual Plan. Good evening, sir, and welcome. The floor is yours.
Mr. Mayor and Council, it's a pleasure to be here this evening. Happy to speak to you tonight about the progress we are making on the Heber Park project. And we have been working closely with Mr. Figueroa and city staff to come up with concepts for the park that best accommodate the available park grant funding within the program that was previously addressed with city and community members. So this evening I'm going to present to you the design in its current state and give you a brief update on the projected schedule. So just to get everybody oriented, this slide is the existing park. So on the left side, or the north side of the area, is existing Heber Park. Sheridan Street, which has currently been closed and dedicated back to the city, and then the vacant portion of the lot on the south side. So I give you that just as context for the next slide. Can I go there? For our proposed design. So we worked hard to try and maximize all of the park components and building components that we can get into this project for the available funds. So this plan generally shows the layout that we're proposing. The multi-purpose building is located essentially in the center of the site, and I'll be showing you more detail about that in succeeding slides. We are developing the main parking lot off of the east side of the site, coming in and creating that parking area, as well as area for covered picnic and other passive functions to the south of the building. And then we do have open field area that's being developed on the north end of the site. So the site elements are still being worked through, and a future presentation will present those in more detail. We have focused our efforts on the building and trying to maximize all of the program functions within the building that the community desires. So Lily, can we go to the next slide? Can you go back one? There we go. So this plan may be a little hard to read at this scale, but this is the floor plan that we're proposing for the building. The main portion of the building is the gymnasium. So this gymnasium will be large enough to accommodate a high school size basketball court. It will also be multi-use court, so it'll be striped for volleyball and badminton and pickleball as well as the basketball. And we're showing that the gymnasium is wide enough to have bleachers there on the lower side of the court itself. Off of the main entry, there are public restrooms within the building, as well as a large multi-purpose room that can be multifunction. And then we do have on the lower left-hand corner of the building, there are public restrooms that will be accessible from the exterior. So you can use those restrooms for any park functions outside of the building itself. We have a manager's office just off of the lobby to control access to the functions, as well as have a view out to the court. And all of this is set up to accommodate all of the programming and storage needs for the recreation programs that are envisioned here. Go to the next slide, Lily. This slide is showing you our building design itself. So the building, the taller portion of the building that you see in the back there is the gymnasium. Again, it's been designed to be high enough to accommodate regulation volleyball and other sports. And the lower area there is the entry and the remaining building functions. We're proposing on the right-hand corner of the building there, we're gesturing an area there for public art. So that's something that we will work with the city to develop concepts for that as the project goes on. So what you see in that rendering is not what we intend to be there, but just a location for a public art component on this building. Go to the next slide. So the building is what is called a pre-engineered metal building. So we've utilized this building type to maximize the functionality and minimize the cost for the building itself. It has concrete block around the lower portion of the building for durability. We are using translucent panels on the upper portion of the gym to get natural light into the gym. And we believe we've used a color scheme that's appropriate here for the city itself. Go to the next slide. So we are currently finishing up our schematic design package, which will be turned into the city next month. It will include the drawings you see here, as well as more detailed information for all of the building systems and a cost estimate. We have worked very closely on the cost estimate to make sure that we're presenting a project that can be constructed with the available funds. Once schematic design is complete, we will go through design development and construction documents. We anticipate coming back the middle of next year to council with the final construction package and request approval to go out to bid, with anticipation of starting construction in fall of next year and completion in summer of 2023. Well, with that, that concludes my presentation, and we are very excited about this project and looking forward to continuing to move forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Katz. Does anybody have any questions for me, Mr. Katz?
I think it's great. Just real quick. So construction from, again, this is a good guesstimate, 1022 to 1123. Is that completion? Or just, we can say, estimate, this is where we plan to open the doors. Is that what we're talking about? Or?
Yes. August of 23, we expect to be having a ribbon cutting and utilizing the facility.
Okay. So that's one, which is great. I love getting timelines and more than that, sticking to that. The other thing, Miguel, maybe this question is for you.
Yes.
Money, right? This is not phases. This is not what we have in money. That's what is going to cover all of this.
So the grant that was secured will pay for everything that Jeff just shared with us, because that was the direction that we received. And even though there was the possibility of potentially looking at other enhancements, the the direction, like Jeff mentioned, was very clear. We want a finished product because we want to deliver something. If at some point we can future enhance the project by securing additional monies, that's going to happen if we're able to accomplish that.
Okay, so there is room for growth, for improvements to this project, but as we stand right now, that's the tentative day where we will have a ribbon cutting ceremony, and then also the money that we have will cover for all of this.
And,
So
and,
we don't
and,
ask
that,
for
and that
projects.
includes the obligations to the project, the direction that we've given Jeff and his team, all that will be covered, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Anybody else? Just to piggyback a little bit on what Mr. Garcia was saying, what I would like to see now that we have people coming in the lobby, at least some kind of rendering, right? So people can see this is a project, what's going on. You know, people can see it, and then like he's alluding a project.
Or maybe
end
by
date.
that site.
But so the community can see it there.
We can definitely engage on the site, at City Hall, and any other public facility that we have. If we want to communicate to the people what's coming, I believe that's doable.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Katz.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
I now called Janet Angulo from the Imperial County Health Department's Director regarding the impact of COVID-19 on Imperial County. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, council members, mayor, members of the public. It's a great pleasure to be here with you. I will, do you have a pointer and a slide changer? What I have for you today are some slides with recent information about our COVID-19 situation. Thank you so much. There we go. So what you have there is our Imperial County dashboard. This accounts for COVID-19 cases for Imperial County residents. I often get the question about, well, why do the numbers don't match with the state dashboard? And this is one of the reasons why it doesn't match. We report 27,408 cases, and if you are to go into the state's website, covid19.ca.gov, you'll see closer to 30,000 cases. And the reason that is because the state accounts for inmate population, where Imperial County does not. We extract information for out-of-country cases, out-of-county, and inmate populations. So this provides you with a better picture of what's truly happening in our community. So as mentioned, 27,408 positive cases and 745 deaths. If you notice, we have two huge surge events. That was May, June, July of last year, and then again October, November, December. The most cases we've reported was a little over 440 cases in a single day, and that was mid-December. What's happening lately is we've seen an increase in cases, an increase in positivity rate, and an increase in hospitalizations. Our increase in cases started happening about the first week of July, and since then it's been gradually increasing. What we have here is case rate and positivity percent. We have 7-day averages. For us, it's important to understand what's happening in our surrounding counties, because the activity in our surrounding counties impact us directly and indirectly, particularly when it comes to hospitalizations. And I do have some information related to hospitalizations in the next slide. So in the last 2 weeks or so, we've seen a great increase. And you have the information for California, San Diego County, Riverside, and Imperial County up in the screen. If you notice, early August, we were reporting 17.5 cases, California, statewide, per 100,000. And currently, it's 26.6 cases per 100,000. San Diego is currently reporting 34.5 cases per 100,000. Riverside, 33 cases. And Imperial County, just under 12 cases per 100,000. So if you notice, increase for our surrounding counties and the state of California in general. What we're seeing as far as positivity percent, and in California, it's a slight decrease statewide. California is reporting a 6.1% from a 7% about 2 weeks ago. San Diego County, slight increase of 8.9% from 8.6. Riverside, slight decrease, 11.5, and Imperial County, 11%. For us, and over the past few weeks, it's been a gradual increase in positivity percent. And if you remember the color-coded system, which we're not functioning under, right? These percentages would put us in purple. And pretty much the entire state of California would be in purple given such increases in cases. Before I talk about hospitalizations, I wanted to show how we're doing with the variants. And just to, in case you don't know how this is working or how variants are detected, we all go through COVID testing, the initial test where you get a result. You're positive or you're negative. Well, that sample collected then gets sent for further sequencing. And that's when these variants are identified. We have what we call variants of concern and variants of interest. And all that information is published in our Public Health Department's website, and it's updated once a week. So in this case, what I have in front of you is these are variants of concern that have been identified in Imperial County: Alpha, Beta, Delta, Gamma. And the first time we reported publicly was July 20th, and back then we had only reported 2 Delta cases. And the reason I highlight Delta cases is because that is the variant that is causing quite a bit of concern right now. It's more aggressive, the transmissibility, and it's just having a great impact in our healthcare system and in our communities. So in this last week, we reported 24 additional Delta cases, and so that brings our cumulative total to 46 Delta cases. So as more information is known, that information is being published and made available to the community. Hospitalized patients. For California, it has almost doubled in the last 2 weeks. We went from 3,720, and this is a 14-day average, to over 6,800 hospitalized patients. That's of great concern. San Diego, Riverside counties, the systems we depend heavily on when it comes to hospital and services, they've been greatly impacted. They went from 288 to 513 hospitalized patients. That's San Diego. Riverside went from 265 to 512. If you notice, Imperial County went from an 8.4 average to a 16.9. You have to keep in mind that our hospitals, they're great hospitals. We have 2, but they're smaller hospitals, and there are only so many beds. And something I want to mention is that even before COVID, pre-pandemic, transfers are a usual part of, our activity in Imperial County because of different reasons. Individuals need different kind of care in different kinds of settings or hospitals. Now, we're having transfers, COVID and non-COVID, so that has never stopped. Again, it was pre-pandemic. It's still happening. Back in May, June, July, we had several hundred individuals transferred out of county, and this was as close as Southern California, but as far as our Northern California hospitals. Now, what you see here is the trend line pretty much for hospitalizations. This is California, and you notice there's a very sharp increase in hospitalizations. This is San Diego, same sharp increase. This is Riverside, same sharp increase. But then here's Imperial County. And if you notice, the line has been much flatter. This morning I was asked a question, and they said, Jeanette, could it be that there's just a delay? And my answer was maybe, because I don't know for sure that there is a delay. There may be a delay, but then there's also interventions that we have been implementing that more than likely have had a great impact in our community and how we're reacting to this virus. But before I go there, going back to, are we late? This is what happened back in May, June, July. when California was surging and when California's healthcare system was being devastated, here was Imperial County pretty much waiting. We were recording cases, but not as, fast as the rest of California. What happened was when California, the rest of California, started trending downwards, that's when our activity just spiked. And I say this, it might have been a blessing in disguise, because at that time, additional beds in other counties, county hospitals were being freed up, which allowed for our families to be transferred out of county. They had a bed available. The concern now is if all counties surge at the same time, and that's why we keep a close eye on what's happening in our surrounding areas, our neighboring counties, again, because if those hospitals are saturated, then it's going to directly impact us in Imperial County. It's going to impact our families. So going back to strategies and attributing to some of the flatter lines, Imperial County has done an amazing job when it comes to vaccination. Our community, great response from our community, our healthcare providers, our vaccine providers, they've been out and about, thinking about, how to take this vaccine to them instead of the community coming to us, using non-traditional, settings, non-traditional, strategies to reach our community. We have individual providers who have been, at the mall. We have individual providers at schools, community centers. Public health was at a museum. If you didn't know, we were at a museum out at El Cotillo because, we needed to reach our community. At churches. Early on, we did drive-thrus, we did curbside, and when I say we, it's vaccine providers in Imperial County. And then the great support that we received from many of the partners, including the cities. So, and I didn't go over the percentages, the actual fully vaccinated percent is 70.6. That's as of Monday, and that is eligible population, 12 years and older. 88% with at least one dose. That's what we have in Imperial County, and actually we are among the top 4 performers in the state when it comes to at least one dose, and we're among the top 10 performers when it comes to fully vaccinated. So a very nice job in Imperial County. Recent changes, lots of questions about the mandate. So there are mandates, there are requirements, there are health officer orders that are issued by the state, by the local health department. The local health department and the local health officer under health and safety code have certain authority to issue orders, and more so during certain events, declarations of emergency, especially when it deals with infectious disease, communicable disease, and other disasters. That is what's happening here. We are also allowed to be more restrictive than the state, given our situation. In this case, we are more restrictive than the state. What was happening was there were certain settings that were required to utilize masks. That included healthcare settings, congregate living settings, K through 12 settings, and that was indoors. What happened here, it's more of a universal masking. Regardless of your setting, in indoors, everyone's to mask. Outdoors, no masking, but indoors, that's the requirement, unless, of course, there's an exemption. Now, something that I do want to mention about exemptions is that it needs to be a valid exemption. And so, and I'll talk a little bit about exemptions in a slide or two. We've gotten a lot of questions about masking and, how effective is masking? And, what's the science and the studies? There's actually a lot that has been learned over time. And the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has this table which summarizes a lot of these studies and the effectiveness in reducing transmission by 77%, depending on the study, depending on the setting. And again, it just lays it out in, type of intervention, location, outcomes, etc. So I'm not going to go over these, but this is a great table to reference, and it talks about the effectiveness of mask wearing. And this is the second part to that table. The link is there. and it's again on the CDC website. As far as concerns, because we've also heard about, well, carbon dioxide and how healthy is that for you? Well, this is directly from the CDC, and it says wearing a mask does not raise the carbon dioxide level in the air you breathe. A cloth mask does not provide an airtight fit across the face. So the carbon dioxide completely escapes into the air through the cloth mask when you breathe or talk. So again, just talks about the safety, the effectiveness, and not only that, this talks about safety, and that's the other question we get. Well, how safe are these masks? Has that been studied? And of course, there's information out there, and that's why there are exemptions. And children under 2 should not be wearing a mask. The same with individuals with certain medical, mental health conditions, disabilities. They should not be wearing a mask, as well as those who are hearing impaired, etc. So that's where the safety piece comes in place. Now, exemptions. We've heard a lot about exemptions and misinformation, and we've heard about providers not only locally but across California, across the state, where there's conversation about providers providing exemptions even without having a valid exemption. Well, this is not coming from the local health department, not the state health department, but it's coming from the Medical Board of California that inappropriate exemptions may subject physicians to discipline. And individuals, the public, if they are aware of such information, they are encouraged to file a complaint. The website is there. So again, this is coming from the Medical Board of California because this is a serious matter. And then just sharing a little bit more about information. Get information from trusted resources or sources. That is our message to our community, because there's a lot of misinformation out. There's a lot of myth that's circulating in our community. Valid source of information: Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, California Department of Public Health, the local Imperial County Public Health Department. Look at what's out there. There's beautiful graphics. There's graphics about the Delta variant, and it talks about how much more contagious it is, much more than other variants. And then, there's graphics such as, when you're not wearing a mask, or when one person wears a mask and when 2 people wear a mask, and how the risk starts lowering until, 2 people wear a mask. And something I do want to highlight is, because I do see comments, or I get comments about, well, it's not 100% effective. No, it's not. Not a single intervention is 100% effective. Vaccines are not 100% effective, and that is the message that has been given all along. But if you layer all these approaches, it has a great impact in our community, and I know cities, employers have done quite a bit of layering, and it comes when you do training, when you do alterations to the workplace, when you use face coverings, when you're vaccinated. All that together has a great impact, and it helps to lower the risk. And with vaccination, and although it's not 100% effective, it is highly, highly, highly effective, much more than other vaccines, and it greatly reduces you getting the disease or you spreading the disease. It lessens the severity, it lessens hospitalization, the risk of hospitalization. And just resources, again, from trusted sources, the CDC. That's one of them. We have, like I said, the California Department of Public Health and the local health department. I'll take any questions at this time, if there's any.
I do have some questions, but I would like the rest of the council to speak first.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reña. Thank you, Ms. Angulo. Thank you for the information. We thank you a lot. I know you do a lot of things for the Imperial County, and I know Mr. Figueroa continually gets updates as well. We attend those monthly meetings, but thank you on behalf of Calexico. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm going to quote, 2 of the county supervisors. First, I want to thank you for such a dynamic job. Mr. Michael Kelly, Supervisor Kelly. And I think your information here, it behooves all of us. So that's Supervisor, Escobar. So, but thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your team, the work that you and your team has done, throughout this pandemic, and we still continue to, get it and receive your information. I think it has been a lifesaver, literally. And I think this is information that again saves lives. It is really happy to see that in Imperial County, it's at the top, one of the top, top counties in people that have been vaccinated. Just, passed by a few more counties, 3 or 4 counties from what I was reading this morning. So that's great. So kudos to that. My question also is, if you can elaborate or just share with us something that came out today regarding the booster shot, for different, populations. So if you have some information on that, I would really appreciate it if you can share it with us.
Absolutely. There are 2 things going on. There's a third shot that is being recommended for those that are immunocompromised. There's that. And then there's a booster shot that is being talked about. And that booster shot, and I'm sure you heard about 8 months after, receiving that booster shot. Well, there's a lot of conversation about that, specific details about how that's going to roll out. Local health departments, at least in California, we don't have, but we are in conversations actually earlier today with the state of California. All counties were actually talking about, the booster shot, what's coming ahead, how we're going to operationalize that. But again, there's 2 different things. There's the third shot for immunocompromised, and then there's the booster shot. Something else that's happening at the same time, it's vaccination for the younger children. That's what's currently being studied, and we hope, we don't have an exact date, but this is, FDA needs to go through all those authorizations, the committees, the reviews, and then it makes it down to states and counties. But the hope is that in the next month or 2, we have a lot more information about vaccination for those 11 and under, which again, will be very helpful for us to help slow the spread in our community.
Yeah. And one last thing. Can we ask the governor maybe for a prize, because he was offering money, for people to get vaccinated. Not with this high percentage. Hopefully we can get $1 million. Supervisor Escobar, can you maybe speak on that? No, but lobby for us some sort of recognition. But again, thank you for such an excellent job.
Machine in his office.
Supervisor Escobar asked me to share, updates and how often those are done, and it just depends on what you are looking at. So there was a point in time, the local public health department dashboard, the black one, that was being updated on a daily basis. However, because of limitations, and it comes back to staff, and it also comes down to the activity that we were seeing, it just slowed it down so much back in June that our rates weren't changing as much. So we went to updating our local dashboard once a week, and then decided to move that to twice a week. So our local dashboard is being updated Tuesdays and Thursdays. Our local case rate is being updated Mondays. However, for those of you that like to keep track of information, if you notice, let me see if I have these here. It's these. You'll see a link at the top of this slide. It's the covid19.ca.gov website. There's a lot of information in that dashboard. You can filter it by county. That's updated on a daily basis, and you'll find case rates, you'll find testing, you'll find the positivity percent, vaccination by zip code, just a wealth of information that anyone can access at any point in time, and the state does a really nice job in updating it daily. I'm sure they have a lot more resources than we do in Imperial County.
Thank you.
One other thing, this variant report, That's updated once a week, and it's usually done the afternoon of Mondays. Are there any other questions for me?
I don't have it.
I do have a
Yeah,
question,
Judge.
but, pertaining to Johnson & Johnson, I know that everybody's kind of concerned about that vaccine. So the people that took Johnson & Johnson, what do you think they're going to do? Are they going to do a booster, or how are they planning to
Yes.
handle that?
That's a great question, and thank you for bringing it up, because what they're looking at for the third shot is for Pfizer and Moderna, and the booster shot for Pfizer and Moderna. Johnson & Johnson, they are looking at that and determining, how that's going to roll out. As far as efficacy, all three vaccines have proven to be very effective. And it's just a matter of waiting, because, again, all of this is going through trials, being studied, information being presented, and then decisions being made so that it's safe for all of us to, receive that booster or that third dose if we need it.
And thank you so much for all your work. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
Mr. Araya?
Yeah. I wanted to go ahead and continue the conversation that we had started at the Board of Supervisors pertaining to vaccination rates and the floating population that we have not only in Calexico but in other cities like El Centro and Hopeville. And I want to bring up this question not to overshadow the great work that has been done by the Imperial County Public Health Department. If anything, any way that you slice it, even if what I'm about to say is true or viable, it's still a great achievement that we're even able to keep up with the rest of the state in the vaccination rates. However, I have to bring up my doubts on the inflation of those vaccination rates based on our floating population. And so I'm going to go ahead and ask that question. But just to clarify, this question is not meant to berate anyone or question anybody's work, but it's more so to be critical and realistic about the real work that we still have ahead. So I'm looking at the vaccination rates, and at the Board of Supervisors, I requested that you give me the information on what population figure we use to calculate the vaccination rates. You replied with the tableau from the state that I have in front of me, and for Calexico, it says that the 12 plus population that we use is 32,449. According to, I did my estimates because that's a 12 plus population. The census gives you under 5 and over 8. I went ahead and make the estimate. That's consistent with the census figure. That's very concerning because the census is a big undercount of the big floating population. And another clue or another suspicion that I have is if you look at that tableau, it says 100% of Calexico has gotten at least one dose vaccination. You go from south to north, Hopeville 70, the two zip codes in El Centro 70, and as you start to go up to Imperial, you have a big drop, 58%. You reach Calapat, you're already at 39%. So you go from 100 to 70 to 39, correlating with where the floating population is. I'm not fully satisfied that the vaccination rate that you're using has been adjusted to the great, immense floating population that we have here in Imperial County. And I say this because the South Bay in San Diego also had the same problem. Nora Vargas was out there, and I respect her and I love her, but she was out there, having her back about the great work that the South Bay has been doing. They also have a floating population. But their floating population doesn't overshadow the millions in San Diego. Here, the floating population in Mexicali, way overshadows the Imperial County. So how can you make me feel better about that estimate?
Absolutely, absolutely. And for those of you that have known me for years, I started in public health and the immunization program. And I'll just tell you this, it's related to what you're sharing right now. There was a time where the state, using the counts, would send us, enough vaccine in their eyes for a certain percent of children, right? And when we would say, we're done, and we still have so many more thousand of children to go, you need to send me more vaccine. And their response was, not necessarily with these exact words, but, Jeanette, what are you doing with the vaccine? Well, we're administering it. So our dynamics definitely play a role. Our border community, we do understand that we have a population, U.S. citizens. We have those with MICAs, what we call MICAs, the legal resident cards. We have those with tourist visas, which for many months right now, they haven't been able to cross unless it's for medical reasons or very specific reasons, including school. But a very small percent of the population. So what's been happening is, yes, absolutely, we have individuals come in who are, again, U.S. citizens, legal residents, who may have an address on this side of the border, but may also live on that other side of the border. Or we may have individuals that live on that other side of the border, but work, go to school on this side of the border. So absolutely. Is it a true count for Calexico? It may be that individuals are using a Calexico address, absolutely. And I think those are the dynamics of Imperial County. We've known them before the pandemic. We absolutely knew that that could affect our numbers. So absolutely, it's a valid question. We've been looking at it. We've been talking to the state about it, and we understand that in some cases, like we understood years ago with the immunization program, that although the number said 5,000, Imperial was going to need 7,000 doses because of our local border dynamics. So absolutely. Will we reach probably 105% if everybody gets vaccinated? More than likely.
Got it. Excellent. That answers my question, and it even goes further because those conversations do need to happen with the state. Obviously, you know, we remember the initial phases of the vaccination phase. We definitely got little vaccines per population, and then definitely that floating population was not taken into account. Just another brief comment on where this question leads me. Because of the good news of the high vaccination rates, the role of the nonprofits, and in my eyes, two that I can identify is Comité Cívico, Imperial Valley Equity and Justice, the LGBT Center. They've been working very, very hard to make sure that we reach people who don't have cars, people who are low income, people who are rural residents. It's beautiful to see, but at the same time concerning because, you know, this is the type of collaboration that, you know, at face value we might say, well, that's excellent, but at another stage, I remember when Imperial County Public Health Department was first making its vaccine drive-thrus, it wasn't in that equity lens, and the initial vaccination results that had more affluent people getting the first vaccines and people with car access getting that first vaccines played that out. I'm very happy to see that the tone has changed, that the nonprofits are in there, that they're working collaboratively with the county, and from here on, I expect that to stay that way. But I wanted to share with this council is that those nonprofits that are being celebrated at a statewide level right now were born out of the COVID committee that the city of Calexico had established, specifically Imperial Valley Equity and Justice. So what is being celebrated at a statewide level that came out of the city of Calexico, we decided to kill, and we really killed something that we should have been proud of. So in hindsight, you know, hindsight is 2020. Moving forward, I hope we can better embrace the democratic citizen-led participation that has borne good results in other areas moving forward. Thank you, Jeanette.
Thank you, and just a comment, it was a collective effort. It was a true collective effort where agencies came together, our hospitals, our local healthcare providers, our pharmacies, our nonprofits, the non-clinical providers. We had cities, public works, just so many people, like I said, clinical, non-clinical, yes, the nonprofits, different kinds of nonprofits partnering up, divvying up and, you know, making sure that the vaccine was making it to every corner of our community. And for that, we are very, very thankful because public health could have not done it by, you know, ourselves. So thank you for all the support granted.
Thank you, Ms. Angulo.
Hold on, I think we have Ms. Rome also.
Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Angulo, for participating with us today. It's very, very important. In the community, the Calexico speak more en Spanish.
Claro que sí.
La comunidad de Calexico, las personas mayores, fueron bien atendidas, pero no fueron al 100% informadas. Cuando participaron estas non-profit que menciona el compañero Raúl Ureña, empezó a elevarse la vacunación. Lo que acaba de decir también el compañero Camilo sobre qué es lo que me preocupa mucho, la booster vaccine, es algo que nos está preocupando porque están subiendo los números y aquí Calexico, como usted sabe, pasa gente diariamente. Entonces, es muy importante para nosotros su trabajo y el del doctor Manda. Okay, again, la pregunta que tenía para usted ya fue contestada, pero thank you very much, I appreciate it, your job y de señor Mande, doctor Mande, y también de nuestro supervisor Escobar. Aquí está al tanto en cada junta. Thank you so much. Okay?
Gracias a usted y una servidora también habla español.
Yo
y
sé.
por lo tanto es importante para nuestro condado, para nuestra región, porque sí, es importantísimo ese mensaje. Es de suma importancia la colaboración, porque los mensajes deben de llegar de diferentes maneras, de diferentes organizaciones. Y estoy de acuerdo, han hecho un excelente trabajo. Tenemos un comité donde se reúne frecuentemente, donde se habla sobre estrategias, sobre los diferentes mensajes, y ya cada quien tiene tarea y sí regresa a sus jurisdicciones, a sus ciudades, y ya cada quien desempeña un rol muy importante. Así es de que ese trabajo en colaboración, ese trabajo colectivo nos ha llevado a estar mucho mejor, a un lugar mucho mejor que el año pasado. Sí. Así es de que seguiremos aquí y si hay preguntas, estamos a su disposición por correo electrónico o por teléfono.
La voy a seguir en sus acostumbrados informes que da, que nos invita a participar. Gracias por el tiempo, porque veo que lo hace en español y lo hace en inglés. No ocupa intérpretes. Thank you so much.
Excelente.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Romo.
Thank you.
Okay, we're at the announcement section. These proceedings may be viewed on the City of Calexico website at www.calexicoca.gov the Friday following the City Council meeting. Community office hours with Mayor Moreno will be held by appointment. Please contact the City Clerk's office at 760-768-2102 to schedule an appointment. Thank you, Ms. Garcia, for doing all the hard work. I know we do meet with people during the week, and the doors are open, so I do have, I have seen some people in the past week since the last time we met.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question on public comments and specifically for yourself and for council. Since we pulled item number 12, and I saw that we had a lot of public comments, I don't know if they were all for 12 or some of them were just general. Now that it's been pulled, are those people still invited to speak generally now that it's not on the agenda? How does that work?
Yeah, since the item's been pulled, obviously that item's no longer in the agenda, so we wouldn't take public comment on that item. Obviously, there's a general public comment section. People could make general comments on items not on the agenda.
So should those people still be invited to give an off-agenda general public comment?
They have the opportunity, to make comment. I mean, anybody can make comment on non-agenda items. So, that's obviously an option.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they're in person. Obviously, they could just. There's a card here. Folks that submitted them online beforehand, we would just hold those comments over. I imagine to the next meeting.
Got it. Okay,
So-
sounds good.
So we're not accepting public comments on.
Well,
number
it's
12.
not on the agenda,
Right.
so we take comments on agenda items. Obviously, the public has the ability to make, public comments on items not on the agenda, so that's always an option for individuals.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good.
And if we do have comments on that, what we've done before, we'll just hold them over, Gabby will, until the next meeting.
Yes, thank you. So public comment sections and public appearances. Note, not to exceed 3 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the city council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter of jurisdiction of the city council. However, if the item you wish to comment on is a consent item, please comment now. During the current state of emergency, public comments will be received in the following ways. Number one, in-person comments. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name and place of residence for the record. While members of the public are encouraged to participate, it is unlawful to disturb or delay the council meetings with personal or slanderous remarks. Number two, submit public comments via email by 2 p.m. on Wednesday, August the 18th, 2021, to our city clerk at gggarcia@calexico.ca.gov or via fax to 760-768-2103. Any comments received during or after the meeting will be distributed to the city council and retained for the official record. The city council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not included on the printed agenda. So now, moving forward, I do have, again, some public comments. Since we're pulling the items on number 12, we're going to delete those. We're going to hold those on. We do have some public comments. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 in general public comments, and I have 2 specifically on public comments on item number 13. So moving forward, I'm going to call the persons to come forward. We're going to have Mr. Luis Casillas.
Good evening, members of the council. It's going to be quick and brief. I'm just here to thank the council members that participated in our invitation to our POA union meeting. We represent the 911 dispatchers and the police officers. It's been long overdue, and we really thank Mrs. Rosia Fernandez, Mr. Camilo, Mrs. Rome, Mr. Ureña. The only person that wasn't able to participate was Mr. Moreno. I did call you a few times. I contacted Gabby to try to get a hold of you. There's probably just a miscommunication there somewhere along the line. Our invitation is still stands, and hopefully you can come and address our association. They're ready to hear from you. They heard from the other 4 council members. It was great dialogue, a lot of positive feedback from all members of the council, and we thank you very much. We know that we still have a lot of work ahead of ourselves, but one of the main important things, we go back to the staffing levels, and I won't take much of the time because my colleague is going to talk about the importance of the 911 dispatchers, as that we've been talking and harping on it, and recently they've hired some hunters, temporary employees, and that's just not the solution. Looking at the Calexico job opportunities posting online, why don't they hire any hunters, temporary employees for the water distribution operator or the water treatment operator or the administration assistant? That's actually a full-time position, and why don't those jobs get filled with hunters employees? So the 911 operator dispatcher position is a very important position. They deal with a lot of sensitive information. There's credentials that my colleague will talk about. I just, keep that in mind, and hopefully, we can come to a resolution with the shortage that we have there. And going back, I know that item number 12 was pulled out of the agenda, but I'm against that. I think that any time that you have the community with another set of eyes and ears brings transparency, brings checks and balances to the table, and it involves the community. And they do it for free. So why not give them an opportunity to be part of their government? And so I'll leave you with that. And like I said, Mr. Moreno, I would once again invite you to come and share a little bit of time with us, and hopefully you can make some time for us here in the future, maybe next week or so, and I'll be in contact with you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Casillas. Next one, we have Griselda Gonzalez.
Good evening, City Council members. If you recall, during the last meeting, I expressed the need for dispatchers and requested positions to be open to the public continuously until filled. Apparently, there was some misunderstanding or lack of importance or interest because the city once again hired temporary employees from the Hunters Employment Agency, from which the city has an existing contract. 2 Hunter employees will aid as a temporary band-aid until 1,000 hours expire, equivalent to 3 months of employment. No other city in California hires first responders via employment agencies. Why is the city of Calexico doing so? When it is illegal, it's a liability and it's a waste of time. Our communication center receives and transmits sensitive information. Therefore, making sure we are fully staffed with full-time personnel should be a priority. A dispatcher hiring process consists of a full extended background check, including a medical exam and a live scan. When hiring from Hunters, the employee only gets live scanned and no background checks is ever completed. Why is the city allowing the Hunter employee inside our communication center, overlooking the background check? Dispatchers, as first responders, attend a 3-week academy certified by California Post. Every 2 years, we are mandated to complete 24 hours training certified by California Post. We are mandated to take Department of Justice full access testings in order to run information in a California and nationwide law enforcement database. Hunters employees do not have access to the database and do not have these certifications. Employing Hunters to act as temporary dispatchers is a liability to the city and a risk to the community. Our community deserves professional and certified employees to provide efficient services. We feel our profession as dispatchers is unvalued when personnel is hired in this manner. It's a slap in the face to us. If the city of Calexico needed a new city manager or a firefighter or other positions to be filled to efficiently operate a department, would Hunters employees also be hired? Or is the police department the only department in the city that has to fill vacancies via Hunters? In closing, I want to address the importance of dispatchers as first responders. Stop hiring via an employment agency and allow qualified candidates to apply for a full-time position and undergo a complete background check. We appeal for a resolution to this matter that affects everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Pete Rodriguez.
Good evening, council members of the audience. I'm here to discuss what really is kind of inappropriate, and I know Mr. Javier Gonzalez, ID director, is here. He's always making comments about the ID and things he's done. I find it kind of hard that they're truthful when he's been asleep the last 2 meetings. It's pretty obvious on live stream that he was asleep in July. It was pretty obvious he was asleep in August before closed session, 8:30 in the morning. And I find it difficult when he comes to make presentations to the council and tells you all these great, wonderful things. How does he get all this knowledge when he's known to be asleep? And recently, what really bothered me was a comment he made about his own training that he took for sexual harassment. which was Tuesday. Another sexual harassment and discrimination training. I've done graduate research, these are his words, and studies on the matter, but regardless of the training being very cautious, it doesn't mean you from accusations. We all know the history behind him and that in the city of Calexico. It's unfortunate that someone, despite actions taken to corrective action taken, that he doesn't learn after all these years. We had a discussion on COVID recently, just a few minutes ago. We all need to be together on the same page. It's unfortunate that some people take training that's serious. I know you guys taking that training. It's very serious, and I wish this individual would be serious in his elected position when he makes presentations to an honorable council like yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Next is Mr. Diego Rivera.
Good afternoon, City Council members. My name is Diego Rivera Valencia. I'm here to represent Mini Metropolis Production Studios. I'm owner producer. Some time ago, I came and asked the City Council on land out there in Calexico. It's apparent, it seems like it doesn't belong to city. I believe it does. I went as far as the assessors and county clerks, and we spent like 2 hours on it. And it shows the Calexico as lead agency. And I'm trying to get that lead agency signed so I can go ahead and begin work. It's gonna take about a year to get started. But the top part of the actual property can be worked on immediately. I have worked with different people in City Hall, and apparently some believe it doesn't belong to the city, some believe it does, and I have paperwork that shows the city is involved on that land. I worked too hard for this, and I'm trying to move forward, not move backwards. I've seen the City Council see if they can help with something about, something of that. Other than that, we're working pretty hard and actually involving ourselves, and we're now just waiting on the signature of the city so that we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Okay, thank you.
So, as we know, when people come up here and make public comments, we allow them to also be online and express their comments online. And we do have a printout here today. I'd like to read this public comment tonight. This is from Liliana Hernandez. Dear City Council members, I have been a citizen of Calexico for almost 20 years now, and from all this time I have lived here, I have seen plenty mayors and council members doing things that are wrong and that are good too. But from all of them, at this moment, City Council Ureña have been the worst. He had like a spoiled child that cry if he doesn't get what he wants. He goes and makes his videos where he call for democracy, but the interesting thing is that he only found it on the things he likes. It reminds me of the metaphor about the cow on the roof. Nobody knows how she got there, and now they need to find a way to put her down to earth. So, for the rest of you, please keep working. The city has a lot of issues that need to be fixed with maturity and real work, not Facebook work. Thank you. Now we're moving on to public comments on item number 13, and we are calling Christine Webb. No.
Yeah, at this time, it's public comments for general public comments and comments on consent items. Item number 13 is on an item that's in the discussion and potential
Thank
item.
you.
So we'll hear it at that point in time.
Thank you. I stand corrected. Thank you.
Correct.
Sorry about that. So now we're moving on to the city manager report.
Yes, Mayor, members of the City Council, I want to bring up Chief Gerardo to discuss and give us an update on the graffiti abatement program, which was a request by City Council. Chief, I know that was your plan, right, to come up and speak on that?
Yeah. Perfect time. Yeah, perfect time. I figured I would clean the microphone for the next speaker. Well, good evening, Honorable City Council, ladies and gentlemen. In the audience, finally, we got some people here and out there in the internet world. I just want to give you guys an update or y'all an update that we will be hopefully within the next month and a half. We're just gauging ourselves on the weather. We were going to do a graffiti cleanup. And when the weather got a little bit, actually COVID put a stop to it, and then now the weather's getting better. We have to gauge ourselves to make sure that this Delta variant is not, it's not too high. If it continues going on a downward spiral like it is kind of stabilizing, we will have a graffiti cleanup that I am going to, well, not I am, we as a department and as a city, with the help of some community members, social clubs, we will do and go around town. We'll get a list. We already had a list of places to go, especially the old Pizza Hut building in the downtown area. Really bad eyesore in some of the neighborhoods around the city. Sergeant Legaspi is the one that is usually in charge of that, because he has this great communication skills with some of the companies like Lowe's, Home Depot, that donate paint to us. So what they do is we get paint like in white, like an off-white, of tan, gray, and another brown color. Miss Falomini's crew also had volunteered. They were very excited. I had a lot of city employees that were going to do it on their own time. We were very excited because we haven't done one in a long time. So when the date comes, I'll give you all enough time. We'll put it up on our website through Recreation, through the City Hall, and we'll invite all of you. But if you do show up, please, I don't mind Kodak moments, photo opportunities, but I would better see some paint on you guys, and I want to see you guys either with a paintbrush and roller, because I have in the past had council members show up towards the end, or people running for office, and they just do photo ops, and I don't like that. So if you're going to go out there, get ready to work, and we'll try to get you guys going out there. Other than that, sir, that's all I have to report. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief, for your kind words.
I want to call up Public Works Administrative Manager Liliana Falomir. She has an update for us on the status of the work being done at Cordova Park.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. As Mr. Figueroa mentioned, on July 28th, 2021, Romtech began constructing the restrooms at Adrian Cordova Memorial Park. They will be completed this Friday. City staff has already installed the irrigation system for baseball field 1, 2, and 3. We are currently requesting proposals to purchase the hydro seed. Also, we are starting to request proposals to purchase several accessories like the dugout benches and then hopefully some bleachers. So that's an update for the Adrian Cordova Memorial Park.
Thank you very much, Lily. I also want to point out that our Public Works crews have been coming in at 11 p.m. and they've started to do, given that school is returning, a lot of the painting of the crosswalks on city streets, along with the curbs on the sidewalks. And I also want to point out that Caltrans, in the past days also, given that it's their right-of-way, Highway 98, they also painted the crosswalks there as we prep for this. So I want to thank our public works staff that are adjusting their work schedule to accommodate some of these things that we need to do. I also want to share with the council an ongoing item that you folks have let me know it's a priority. We had a conversation with 2 council members that expressed interest regarding the maintenance agreements with Caltrans for 111 and 98. I also had the opportunity to share with the 5 of you such agreements, some of them that date back to 1982. One of the things that resulted from that is the fact that we have on the east and west side of Calexico, the entry and exit points, we have some very old damaged Calexico signs. So we were just notified by the Department of Transportation that they have been ordered and that we expect them to be installed in December. The reason for that is because there's a back order on signs at the agency. So please expect that by that time, and we'll be keeping you folks updated. The other thing that also was important to us, and I think for me also one of the biggest priorities, and I know we share that sentiment, is the entry and exit points of Calexico from an aesthetic point of view. We want to make sure that at least when people come in, they see something that's full of life. In this case, if it's any type of plant scenery that we have. One of the things that we're also looking into is to make sure that we address the issue on the Oleanders and 111 there on the divide between the southbound and northbound traffic. That's been something also that Ms. Falomir and I have been following up on, and we're seeking answers right now from Caltrans, right? Based obviously on the maintenance agreements. So we're following up on that as well. Same thing with Canal Park. For those that don't identify Canal Park, it's that strip of land between V.V. Williams and Edie on Highway 98. We know that's been a lingering issue that we all want to see get resolved. Again, given our communication with Caltrans, we've segmented a plan that's going to get us to hopefully very soon begin to address what we consider to be an area that requires a significant amount of work. With that said, I also just want to share with everybody that we continue to make progress on key items as it pertains to the city's partnerships with our higher education institutions. I am very happy to share that today. Ms. Lisette Legaspi, our library manager, and myself met with the current leadership of the San Diego State Imperial Valley campus stationed here in Calexico. We visited Carnegie Library because there is an opportunity for which we can partner and offer something else to our community through the Carnegie Library in San Diego State. Hang tight, more information to come on that, but I do want to share with the community and with the council that we're being extremely active in making sure that we tackle those opportunities. With that said, Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Figueroa. Now we're moving on to City Council comments and or reports on meetings attended. Bernadette, do you have anything?
I don't have anything.
You don't? Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
I just want to go back real quick to what City Manager Figueroa just shared with us. I know it was a very productive meetings with the staff, on the Caltrans agreements, on the plan of beautifying our city. I think that's part of it, and I think our all the entrances or exits, to our city. I think that's very crucial, and I'm glad to see that those are being addressed, and that we begin to bring life again to our city. So that's very important. Kudos to that. Thank you for that. Also, I'm glad that again that the signs are going to be replaced and updated because our population needs to change. We're not happy, but that's not on us, with our numbers. But it is what it is. But at least needs to be updated. And then also, I would like just to suggest, Mr. Figueroa, and that's something that I share with you. If we can perhaps, as we start, changing the signs or looking into Caltrans, or maybe we can partner also with, some of the social service clubs to maybe, add, some of that signage, who's here, I know we have Rotarians, we have, other clubs that are in town, just to give it a different feel. I think that will add to the participation. And I know for a fact that, Rotarians are very active in our community, and they have done some work, with the fire hydrants and other activities. So I think just getting them involved and reaching out to them, this is something that probably they can help us out. That's great. I'm happy to hear about Cordova Park, that, we're moving forward, that's really exciting. Then also, I don't want to forget, and I know probably, we have our rec, department manager here, but thank you for the event also that you held, last week, I don't know, Splash, my apologies, for the title, but I know that was a great event for our young ones in Calexico, for our community in Calexico, not just young people, children, but it was a good event. Thank you also to the fire department. I know that their help, and that was great. Unfortunately, I couldn't go. I was in a meeting, but I did get to see some of those videos that were posted. So again, great for that. But it was great. It was very, very encouraging and happy to see those type of events. So thank you for that. And thank you to all.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Mr. Orellana?
Sure. I wanted to go ahead and begin by clarifying my intentions. The vote to approve the agenda moved very quickly, so I just wanted to go ahead and clarify the intentions behind my vote. For me, I'm very much indifferent whether item number 12 was voted right now or in the next meeting. If it was up to me, ideally, I would not like the item to come back because I have reason to believe that the community does not want it, but that's very much separate. My main concern was if the item was pulled and tabled, that those 7 people, I think, or 8 people that requested to comment on it, would lose that opportunity, and maybe they would not be informed to come back. And so, just to give you the understanding that I'm indifferent, it's a very good motion, very honorable motion. So that there's no misunderstanding, that I'm not trying to be divisive here on that vote specifically. I went ahead and had a meeting with the Police Officer Association leadership, as did with Ms. Romo and as did Ms. Hernandez and Mr. Garcia. There was one actionable item that I will go ahead and propose in future agenda items so that we can consider it. One of the actionable items that came out of that meeting that the operators expressed is that as the budget is written right now, the police department is funding, at least from what they said, the police department is funding most, if not all, of the operator services, which also takes calls from the fire department. They expressed that we should have a budget amendment if possible, so that that liability for the operators is funded 50-50 from the fire department and 50-50 from the police department. I think it's a great idea, but in the context that both of those departments are short-staffed, underfunded, and have their own challenges, we have to consider that with caution, but it's definitely a good idea. And, at the end of the day, I expressed to them that the ultimate responsibility here, or the ultimate reality, is that every single department in this city has a lot of needs, and that ultimate responsibility for legislatively encouraging economic development, or just administratively, it comes back to us. It doesn't even come back to Miguel. Miguel, year after year has shown great stewardship of the finances of the city to keep us on track with our budgetary goals, but I would like to see the city council itself, in its legislative powers, go ahead and make actions that actively encourage that economic development that we so desperately need to fund all these departments, to get ready for the recovery, etc. And those are conversations, obviously, that are extensive and that we are having in a very healthy manner. The second one has to do with Zoom meeting access. I have brought this item up ever since the campaign trail, ever since the last council. According to the governor's executive order, we are supposed to have access to public participation remotely. And at least in my interpretation, the written email access is not sufficient. First of all, we have a lot of people who can't read and write, much less in English. We have a big senior population that can't write emails or knows how to send emails. I think the discontinuation of Zoom is very detrimental to the access to democracy here on the City Council. I can personally say just for this meeting alone on the topic of the Police Commission, there were 4 members of the community, 2 of them from the west side of Calexico, who said, I want to participate, but I can't because there's no more Zoom and I don't have a car. And that's just the reality here in this community that we have to be sensitive to. And there might be a legal matter there because if I remember correctly, on the last council, what got us using Zoom was the fact that independently of me, an ACLU attorney sent a letter to the City Council with I believe it was with a Brown Act concern that we were not giving sufficient, that written comments were not sufficient access to satisfy the governor's order. So we definitely want to visit that cautiously, if not on the legal side, definitely just because we know our community needs it. Now, what I had brought up when we were inaugurated is that switching to Zoom could actually save us somewhere around, I think the contract, how much do we pay for community spectrum? Was it like 100K, 130?
It varies based on the length of the meetings.
The base contract? Oh, length of the meetings?
Yes.
Okay. Typically, what are we paying per year?
Well, there's a standard fee for up to X amount of hours, and then after that, that number increases with the additional hours that we accrue. So it's it varies significantly just because of that element. But if certainly if that's something, an analysis that you request for us to do, we can definitely follow up on that.
Sure, of course, and I would definitely like to see that in future agenda items. I'll bring it back up because ideally what I'd like to see is to, like pretty much every other board, discontinue community spectrum so we can save that money, be like the city of El Centro, they just use Zoom. That brings us, has greater public participation because the people can actually talk to us through Zoom in a way that they can't through community spectrum. And, it could free us up a good, something $1,000 for the consideration of this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Araya. Mrs. Romo?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, first, it was an honor to have met with the Police Officers Association yesterday. I am taking to heart each and every one of the concerns that were discussed by the association. And I am planning to bring a resolution to those concerns in unison with the chief of the police, city manager, and my city council colleagues. And second, today, along with my colleague, Mr. Raul Ureña, we visited the police 911 dispatch department and heard some of their feedback. After this visitation and seeing the work that they accomplished, I would like to express my admiration for the service that they have done passionately, especially during the pandemic. They have been heroic and pillars to our community of Calexico. At all times, they are the first point of contact with the police and fire department, and daily are dealing with the human distress. with their full commitment and passion, they have been the initial point of rescue for the lives of all people in our community. In California, National Public Safe Telecommunicators Week is held annually the second week of April to honor telecommunicators' personnel for commitment, service, and sacrifice. I would like to request the City Council, in unison with the Police Department and Fire Department, work together to establish an annual honoring of all 911 dispatcher public telecommunicators, as is done in most other cities in our state of California. Todo mi honor para los que me están escuchando en español, a las personas que no vemos, que cuando tenemos una emergencia, como yo la he tenido, y algunos de nosotros también, ellas están, y ellos, porque también hay hombres, más mujeres que hombres, por cierto, están ahí para escucharnos y para trabajar en cuestión de segundos para poder salvar la vida de una persona. Yo quiero llamar, por favor, al señor Figueroa que ponga atención en los dos departamentos que usted tiene, el departamento de policía y el departamento de bomberos. Son igualmente responsables de esta área, señor, no nada más la policía. Porque estos operadores del 911, que tienen muchas necesidades, no tienen ustedes idea, tienen la obligación, estos dos departamentos, de apoyarlos. Obviamente usted. Entonces, he sabido que solamente el departamento de policía está apoyando a estos operadores. Entonces, aquí debe de ser los dos, darles el honor que ellos merecen y todo lo que ellos necesitan, porque gracias a esta área que no dejaron de trabajar 7 días, mayor, a la semana, 24 horas, ahí estuvieron, y hasta enfermas, tomando llamadas en todo el tiempo de COVID hasta el día de hoy, y siempre lo han hecho. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Romo.
And on that note, Ms. Romo does bring up a very important point in terms of the recognition that is deserved, and which happens every year, but it does merit that we have a conversation as to how we can raise the bar even more.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you, yes. I have 3 comments. So I met with Yesenia Campos from the Calexico Unified School District, the adult education program for the Robert Morales Center here in Calexico, and they're going to celebrate their 100th anniversary on or about October or November. So we met on that and looking forward to have some kind of acknowledgement, maybe a recognition in City Council. The other comment I have is also Casa Alegría. I know that the business Casa Alegría, but actually it's Alegría. It's an adult daycare center, healthcare center here in Calexico. They're also having their 20th year anniversary, and they also request that we can recognize also. So we're going to accommodate that organization. They do a lot for senior citizens here. The other is the last comment I have is I was invited by Recreation Department Manager Norma Gerardo, to an event here at the Carmen Durazo Center to speak a few words on behalf of the city on the programs that they come to an end, that summer ends. For me, and I say this to the council members here, is that I had the opportunity to be there and watch how the program, especially the dancing, the art, what they do there. I think we don't do enough to promote that in the city. And for me, it's really sad that I'll sit there and they have all the parents, everybody, it's a community effort. Thanks for the recreation department putting that together. But I think we should, next time around, perhaps look ways to fund those programs so they won't be shortchanged. I think it's very, and we all know we do it for the senior citizens. We do hard for that, but also the smaller generations are also important as we move along. So those are my comments. Thank you. Moving on, the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, anybody second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Camila. Any discussion? No
No
discussion?
hay discussion
No,
antes.
no discussion.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, motion carried 5-0. Thank you. So we now have items pulled from consent calendar for discussion. We did pull item number 12. We tabled that.
Number 9.
We have number 9, adopt a resolution designating all city employees who worked during the COVID-19 pandemic as eligible workers performing essential work pursuant to the American Rescue Plan Act. Mr. Figueroa?
Absolutely, Mayor, City Council, members of the community. One of the steps that we need to take in order to comply with the American Rescue Plan Act as we look forward to implement the resources that have been allocated to the city of Calexico is defining who is qualified or who is defined as an essential worker in the city of Calexico. Let me give you a couple of important facts behind this. There was a substantial amount of research done with the assistance of legal based on the guidelines that ARPA allowed for municipalities, county governments, and state governments. With that said, one of the things that we defined was the fact that essential workers are those that came in during the lapse of time from March of 2020 through June of 2021, which is the gap of time that ARPA allows for the elements to be used, that money for. So with that said, we did have a good number of obvious workers in Calexico at all departments that came in and stood at the forefront of continuing to provide city services. With that said, the recommendation that you have here before you is that permanent full-time and permanent part-time workers be considered across the board essential workers. In other words, everybody that is on city payroll should be considered an essential worker. We're not discriminating, we're looking at everybody across the board. After careful review, based on feedback that I received from the city council members during my individual conversations, it was determined that we do have workers that are employed through a temporary agency.
Thank you.
Given that the temporary agency gets paid by the city and the city does not have the employees on payroll, they are ineligible for the monies under ARPA, under the premium pay concept, which I want to be very clear, okay? ARPA allows for different elements for which money can be used. The one that we're referring to here will trigger us to pay premium pay to essential workers.
Mm-hmm.
After, again, the proper counsel from our legal team at Best and Krieger, it was determined that since the city is the recipient as a government agency, and based on the ARPA guidelines, that as it pertains to premium pay, it's for those that are on city payroll in a permanent full-time or a permanent part-time status. So I know that was an item of interest, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear that we did our due diligence, and these are the outcomes that we came up with.
So is Hunter going to pay them?
Well, I mean, that's the temp agency that provides a service to the city.
Mr. Figueroa?
Yes, sir.
One question. So how can we get some premium pay for the temporary workers. I know that in your ARPA plan, you had an essential workers grant. Is there any way that we can get those temporary workers some premium pay through that essential workers grant?
So one of the, and that's a great question because I can provide some clarification. The item before you here is specifically pertaining to the definition of an essential worker, for which at a later meeting, we're going to come back and present the actual Calexico ARPA recovery plan.
Okay.
Meaning that there are going to be all the elements that based on your feedback, that based on what my department heads are telling me, we're going to present as our plan for ARPA money. Indeed, one of the beauties of ARPA is that it allows for creative options to be considered. Again, I cannot commit to something that this council has not reviewed nor approved, which will come at a later time. But there are options that ARPA allows to properly assist and compensate people that worked through the pandemic in our city. And when I say our city, I mean in general. Obviously for that, there's going to be certain guidelines that need to be considered and followed. In a nutshell, the answer to your question is yes, but that's contingent on discussion and approval from council.
So, Mr. Figueroa, just to piggyback on an excellent point that Mr. Ureña had alluded to, I believe an essential employee or worker is anybody who is critical, a person critical to the operations or infrastructure of an organization, which, I mean, I'm not going ahead, but I'm saying which they qualify, right? I think that's where we want to clarify that. Correct.
And I agree 100% with you. That's why I just want to make that distinction. This applies only to the premium pay for city employees. There are other elements that can address the points that are being brought up right now.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Ureña. Anybody second that? Second. Second by Mr. Camilo Garcia. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried 5-0. Thank you. Item number 10, authorize city manager to file notice of completion for new water line, Ollie Avenue and alley west of SR 111 through SR 98 widening project.
Oh, good. So move.
Yes, well, Ms. Romo, I'm assuming you've heard a lot from me and Ms. Palomir about this project, and this is simply the final notice where we officially close the book on the project. The work has been inspected, the work is done.
Okay.
And I know we've discussed this at length, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve item 10.
Second.
Second by Ms. Fernandez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Ureña? Thank you. 5-0. Motion passes.
11.
So we have item number 11, introduction and first reading by title only of an ordinance amending the City of Calexico purchasing policy and procedures regarding change orders.
Okay. This item is an item that we've been discussing at length. There was actually a recommendation from City Council for us to further look into this matter. We actually had a site meeting in which we had 2 council members, as we are allowed to have, to discuss matters pertaining to city policy. And there was a very firm recommendation that we had to tighten up a section of our purchasing policy pertaining to change orders. And after discussion and after having a couple of meetings, it was determined that we had something here feasible to present to the City Council to address the needs that were expressed. So with that said, we've made revisions to the change order section of the purchasing policy that is providing now specific language as to how the city manager, department heads, the finance manager, and the City Council can address some of these items that come up with projects. I'm very proud to say that this is now something that as staff we value, because it's very clear and precise as to how to be able to accomplish some of these things. If there's any comments or questions, I'll be happy to address them.
I have a question. What is your opinion with this amendment and the misfollowing?
I think
What
at-
is?
I think at the end of the day, like I mentioned, it's always good to update policies. And if sometimes we have vague policies that can be interpreted in different ways, by doing what we do here, we're able to be specifically in knowledge of what can and cannot be done. So I feel that this is a step in the right direction to make sure that we, and myself as an administrator and my staff, know precisely where we stand on how to act when these items come up.
Okay.
And I just want to also make a comment. I think this is something that I pointed out, and I think this is just moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
This is just like City Manager Figueroa mentioned. This is just to provide direction, to make direction clear, and to also, why not, accountability. I think that's part of that also. This is in no way, shape, or form, something that, will lead to any room for interpretation, or, pretty much it's what can and cannot be done. What's the chain of command, or anything that pertains to purchasing and procedures. But in this case, I think, what was clear and what was made clear is that change order language, which I'm very happy that we had the discussion. It was very productive, it was very healthy. So, and I look forward to continue to, help in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Anybody else?
I have
No?
a brief,
Yes?
brief comment. I would just like to applaud Mr. Garcia's advocacy on this particular area of administration, which is purchasing orders and change orders, is not only very honorable, but it's going to be key to solving something that has been wrong for Calexico for many decades in our public administration. I really hope it brings transparency, savings, and what we need to make sure that our public finances actually bring the services to the people of Calexico. Muchas gracias, señor.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Ms. Romo, no? You? Okay, I make a motion to approve item number 11. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Garcia. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried 5-0. Thank you.
13.
City Attorney, are you
Got-
going to read the title?
Thank you, City Clerk. That was moving to the next item. Yes, the title of the ordinance is an ordinance of City Council, City of Calexico, California, repealing Calexico Municipal Code Chapter 2.5. Excuse me, wrong ordinance.
Okay.
Just a quick second. Correct now. An ordinance City Council, City of Calexico, California, amending the City of Calexico purchasing policy and procedures regarding change orders. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Campos.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 13, zoning determination that a 70-foot macro cell tower is not considered a public facility in our zones for the reasons described in the zoning determination report. Do we have anything on that, Mr. Figueroa?
Yes, on that item, Mayor and City Council, I do want to point out that there was a determination that was made by the Planning Commission, and that Planning Commission recommendation is now being brought forth to you to make sure that you understand the situation. However, I do want to point out that we have online, we have Andrew McCardle, and we also have some people in the audience today that are going to talk on the item. So at this point, I would defer City Clerk if Mr. McCardle is ready.
Does council have any specific questions on this item? There was a determination by the planning commission that there's not a similar use between the 70-foot micro cell tower being considered a public facility in a R zone. That was staff determination. That was the recommendation as well of the planning commission, and that's a recommendation that's being made to the city council.
Okay, thank you.
No specific question, just a brief and general comment on the matter, if I may,
Sure.
Madam Mayor, or Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, and I do have my our telecom attorney on the phone, but I think we're having some little, well, maybe you can hear if there's specific questions as to.
No worries.
Oh.
Yeah, just a brief comment. So I'm definitely not against this item. Definitely consistently in favor of what the Planning Commission is recommending. I had a concern because I there's a lot of fake news and misinformation on these specific radio waves out in the community. In my opinion, they're not harmful. I don't think the community is aware of just how much radiation we already have in our residential areas. There's already 4G LTE towers, there's 3G towers, there's all the Wi-Fi devices. I really don't think a 5G tower would be bad in a residential zone, but if this is what the Planning Commission wants, that's okay. But I did talk to City Manager Figueroa to make sure that if we approve this, that we have some kind of process or some kind of designation. So if we can't put the cell tower in that R zone, we can at least put it in the outsides of the R zone so that the R zone is covered by a tower without the tower actually being in there. Because if you have a block, if you have one tract of residential zone and it's surrounded by mixed use or commercial, that's fine. The cell towers are going to be around there. The problem is when you have a whole suburb, right? When you have residential, 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 and no commerce around it, that area is not going to be covered. And so connectivity in a rural place, we're trying to tackle that. We need those cell towers there. So we need some kind of designation if we're not going to have them in the R zone, to have them in the outer zone. But that being said, I mean, I'm not against this item, but I am definitely wanting to make sure that we get the connectivity if this passes.
Okay, point taken, Mr. Rania. On that, I just have one thing, quick. Who, if, for example, like he alluded to, having a process in place to make sure that certain things don't happen, who does that? The planning commission? Does that come from the planning commission?
In terms of
recommending, that's what they do, right?
I didn't hear the question.
So he said something that there should be a process in place to make sure that they do it within the guidelines and zoning and all that, right? I think that's what you said.
There should be a designation
Right.
to make sure that in the outer
Right.
edge of those R zones.
So what I'm saying is, who does that? The
We
planning
work-
department?
Yeah, planning,
planning
but also in guidance by federal law as well, in terms of sometimes we don't have some discretion, but right now, we're not making a determination on the actual application itself as to where it's going. All we're doing right now is making a determination that's not consistent with a public facility. Because if we do make that consistency finding, we're saying that it is a public facility and thus it can go in that zone. But if there was a determination by the planning planning director specifying why it's not consistent with a public facility from size to what the code provides. The actual application, it's going to be in the process and look at the location and the like, but right now, all we're looking at is a determination of consistency, if it's consistent, and the determination that was made by staff and recommended by the planning commission that is not consistent with the public facility.
Got it.
If it was, then if the determination was otherwise, then they would process their application as being consistent with the public facility and would process it in the residential zone. But I know there's also a representative here from the applicant. I know they have some thoughts on some locations, so they may want to comment. And I do know they have a speaker card submitted.
Okay. Okay. We're ready?
Mayor, if you wish, maybe we can call the people that wish to come up and.
Okay, well, while we wait on that. Thank you, Mr. Figueroa.
Sure.
We have Christine Webb.
Good evening. Are we still having connection issues with Mr. McCardle?
I think it's just difficult to hear, but.
Mr. McCardle, can you hear us?
Sorry, this is Andrew from
Okay,
Vestas and Krieger. Did y'all address me? I apologize. It's quite muffled, the audio, so it's hard to hear what was being said. So I just wanted to say I am on the line, as I believe they mentioned, but I wasn't sure if the question was directed to me, so that's why I just wanted to clarify.
Correct. Thank you, Andrew. Also, too, we do have facial covering, so maybe that's probably adding to it. But if anybody has any specific questions, we just need to be clearly articulate them into the microphone. Any questions from council? Okay.
I don't, Mr. Campos, thank you.
Okay, before I proceed, my name is Kristen Webb. I represent the applicant Vertical Bridge. I just wanted to make sure that Mr. McCarr could hear me because I want to address the points that were made in the staff report about this determination. So just to give a little background, on June 20th, 2021, Vertical Bridge sought a zoning determination as to whether its 70-foot macro cell tower would be considered a public facility. The tower is to be placed at 902 East 3rd Street, California 92231, which is located in an area zoned for residential condominium use. Public use facilities are unconditionally permitted in residential condominium zones under Calexico City Code Section 17.03.110, subsection C5. The city has already determined that this tower is a public utility facility in the important notice that was sent. And with the council's permission, I do have some exhibits to pass around, if that's okay. This is the important notice that was sent, and you can see on page 1 that the city determined it was a public utility facility, if you want to pass those out. Now, the term public facility is actually a broader term that encompasses public utility facilities. So therefore, if the city already determined it was a public utility facility, it should therefore, by operation, be a public facility. So under the Calexico City Code, section 17.01.440, this tower may be deemed a similar use to a public facility if each of the following findings are met. 1, the use furthers the objectives of the zone. 2, the subject use and its operations are compatible with the uses permitted in the zone. 3, the subject use is similar to one or more uses permitted in the zone. And 4, the subject use will not cause substantial injury to the property in the zone within which it is proposed to be located, or in an abutting zone. I believe the planning director concluded that they cannot make any of these 4 findings and is therefore recommending to deny the similar use determination. It's our position that you can make these 4 findings and designate this tower a public facility. In the staff report, I think there was 3 arguments the city attorney made as to why that this tower would not further the objectives of this zone. They said, 1, the height of the tower would cause unsightliness and illumination based on proximity to the airport, so I suppose lights having to be at the top of it. 2, there would be constant dust and traffic from maintenance cars constantly driving along the alley to service the tower. And 3, that construction of a tower is not related to the construction of condominiums. I have some photo simulations here that would show you what the tower would look like. It's and some of you may know this already, it is a palm tree. We have pictures of what the zone looks like now, and then a picture of the palm tree. So the tower looks like a palm tree. Here's, just pass them out. So, as you can see, it's not it's designed to meet the aesthetics of the zone. Instead of just putting a pole, it looks actually like a palm tree. As for the illumination, the FAA determined that there would be no lighting necessary. It's not necessary for aviation safety. And I also have the FAA determination that no lighting would be needed at the top of this tower. As for the dust and traffic from maintenance workers, that's going to be a very minor issue.
Just want to comment that we do have time limits on public comment on the item, so.
Public, okay.
So I'm not sure where we're at. I'm not keeping track, so. But
I can give you a much shorter version of my pitch then. So am I limited to 3 minutes? Is that what you're telling me?
That's generally the
okay.
standard here.
I just had figured that this was up for discussion, and we're not under the public comment section, but.
Well, on agenda items, comments on agenda items are
right.
3 minutes. It's a reasonable regulation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then I'll give you my elevator pitch then. There is a significant gap in coverage here. And this tower would help that gap. And I have coverage maps for you. You'll see green is coverage, red is not.
I have a question, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
You're done? Or?
I'm not done.
Do you want to wait?
Well, I was going to make a question to the presenter, if I may. If this is denied, or if this proposal is passed, and also for Figueroa, because you know the zoning determination as they stand right now, if this particular zone is not allowed, I know that most of 1st to 5th Street is mixed-use commercial. Isn't there a vicinity location where that can be put, or no?
I have. He is the one who scouted the site and has been working on this for over a year, I believe. So he can speak to why this is the only site that will work.
Okay.
For this tower, but
yes,
if
I would like to hear that at some point.
Okay, maybe after.
Sure, of course.
Okay. T-Mobile was the one that engaged Vertical Bridge to find this tower site within a specified search ring to boost coverage. And as I said, extensively looked at different sites and did an exhaustive search. And this is the site that was determined that would work the best. The city must defer to T-Mobile's design of the cell network under federal law. Vertical Bridge found a former warehouse property, but is now zoned residential. So that it's not going to work. We're ready to remedy the significant gap in coverage. T-Mobile has signed a lease agreement with Vertical Bridge for the site, and Vertical Bridge has signed a lease with the landowner. And the Vertical Bridge is proposing the faux palm camouflage design to meet the area aesthetics. And we've engaged with the city in good faith in an attempt to remedy the concerns. But the city cannot prohibit service in this area where there is a significant gap in coverage under federal law. The similar use zoning determination should be approved because the proposed tower meets all of the requirements under the city code to be deemed public facility. Like I said, the city already agreed that it was a public utility facility, and this is a much broader definition. If the zoning determination is denied, it will constitute an effective prohibition of service, and the Federal Telecommunications Act outlaws an effective prohibition of service by a city. There is an effective prohibition of service here since there is a gap in coverage, and we've conducted a thorough site search finding no viable alternative sites.
Mayor Moreno, if Andrew McCardle can hear us, would you care to provide your point of view on the matter, please?
Sure, yes. Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, sure, I heard most of that, a bit cut out, but I'd be happy to speak on it generally, and then if you field any questions, I'll be happy to do that as well. So, just to start, I really want to focus in on, as staff did in the zoning determination as well as the report on the required findings in the code section that you have to be able to make in order to approve this request. And I do want to clarify a procedural point, which is that you're not actually, this decision would not be addressing the application as a whole, the main application for the tower. It's focused on this request for determination of similar use. And I know it's laid out in the staff report, but I just want to reiterate that. One of the main points, I think, findings to focus on are findings two. All of them are important, of course, and I don't want to take everyone's time to go through, rehash everything that's in the report, but if we go to finding 3 specifically, the subject use has to be similar to one or more uses in the permitted zone. And while I don't agree that a cell tower is definitively a public facility, I believe the representative mentioned that. I don't know when or where the city had made such a statement, but here we're focused on whether or not this 70-foot tall macro tower is similar to the already permitted uses in a residential zone. And as you can see in the detailed analysis that planning department provided, it is not. It's not to say that in no instance could an antenna be similar to a public facility or public facility use. But in the residential zone that is at issue here, the types of public facilities listed are, libraries, parks, public offices, reservoirs. None of them have the same, staff's assessment, none of them have the same magnitude or reach as a 70-foot tall tower. Additionally, the structures in the area themselves are mostly single-story. They appear to be residential residences, which makes sense given this residential zone. There are a few in the vicinity, I believe, 2-story multi-unit dwellings, but there's nothing that reaches this magnitude or height. And so that's a big reason for the conclusion that it's not similar to the uses in that residential zone. It's not to say that it could never be similar to a public facility, but it's not similar to the public facility uses or private uses that are approved per the zoning code in that zone. So that's an important point to keep in mind. And kind of finding 2 is similar as well, saying the subject use in its operation has to be compatible with the uses in the zone. And again, as I mentioned, in this area, you have 1 to 2-story what appear to be residential structures, and a 70-foot tall cell tower is not compatible with, or the staff's determination is that it's not compatible or harmonious with the existing facilities or uses in a residential zone. And finally, just with regard to the legal argument, and I apologize, I only heard part of it, so I do want to just caveat that, but the discussion about whether this is filling a gap, there is a federal law that addresses, places some limitations on a city's ability to regulate installations, but, and I just want to say, as far as I'm aware, the only official applicant, and someone can please correct me if I'm wrong, is Vertical Bridge, which is an infrastructure provider, meaning that they install a tower, and they're, from a business perspective, then they seek to rent out or lease out space on that tower to various wireless providers. I believe T-Mobile is mentioned, but I don't think that T-Mobile is an actual provider. I'm sorry, an actual applicant. They are a wireless provider. I don't believe they're named as an actual applicant. I think Vertical Bridge is the only applicant. But even so, again, this is not a decision on the main application. This is just focused on the zoning determination about whether or not a 70-foot macro tower is a public facility for the purposes of a residential zone. So that's my little reply, but I'm happy to field any questions I can.
May I respond to that quickly?
We're over the time limit, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions, concerns? 'Cause I do have public comment I'd like to read in response to this item.
Public comment first.
Okay, thank you. So this is from Mr. Arturo Rioseco. It was sent today. We, Arturo and Francisca Rioseco, residents of Calexico and property owners of 825 East 2nd Street, strongly object and oppose the City of Calexico granting permission by any means to applicant UA 2021-04 for the erecting of a telecommunications tower at 902 East 2nd Street. Parentheses 8 p.m., semicolon 058-551-029, semicolon, period. Telecommunications cell towers are known source of radiation that create short and long-term health risk within 300 and 400 meters, parentheses 3,280 feet, enter parentheses, of a cell tower. We live half a block from, city blocks from distance from the proposed tower site. Additionally, it is a fact that cell towers in residential areas cause property values by as much as 40%. We believe said tower would cause health and economic damage to our persons and our neighborhood. If you have any questions, you can reach me at this east side or cell phone number at 760-427-0396. End of statement. So now is the gentleman done? I mean, he's logged off.
Yeah, we were just here to answer any questions the council may have.
For the gentleman?
Was he going to comment on why that's the only site? If you would like to make a public comment.
Okay, but hold on, Mr. Doña. I'm addressing the gentleman. I think he's still on. And we'll get to that right. I did notice he was there.
Okay.
So I guess my first question is, Mr., is he still on? Does anybody have questions for him?
Unless I think Andrew, I don't know if you have anything else at this point in time, but if council has any comments.
I don't have anything, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Hernandez.
No, I don't have any.
Okay.
Yeah, and then just a point of clarity again, what we're determining here is a zoning a consistency with a public facility. We're not making a determination on the actual application itself. Depending on your decision today, then that will impact, or that'll how we process the application itself. So it's not a decision on the application that's been submitted. It's just on that determination of similar use.
I understand that. That makes sense. But the only question that I have that I would like an answer from anyone is, if this is denied, what's going to happen? Do you have an alternate site, or why is this particular site so important?
I mean, somebody else another member can speak on the item.
Yeah, it's my question.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, was that a procedural question for me?
There's somebody else with the applicant here who's going to talk about some coverage issues or so.
No, I mean this. Sure, speak. My name's Gary Castle. I'm the original applicant, or actually the applicant basically for the.
Sorry.
Just speak, put it closer, yes.
Can you hear me now?
No.
That's a Verizon.
No, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, guys. I apologize. It's probably a little late for everybody here.
Okay.
All right, so Gary Castle, I represent Vertical Bridge. I also represent T-Mobile in this circumstance. I'm a contractor for both. And that's how I got onto this whole Calexico scenario as far as where the location would be and so forth. And of course, then we have, the legal side of it too. But the point is, and you asked a great question, so please, we've been working on this search ring since 2018, I think is the date. And at first, 4/24/2018. So when you still can't hear me? Is that me?
Yeah.
Are you talking to me?
If you could just stay closer to the mic.
Boy, there you go. Okay, there you go. So it seems like I just have to face it. All right. So since 2018, we've been working on this search ring for T-Mobile specifically and Vertical Bridge. The challenge is that there was another SIDAC firm that actually tried to work through the site acquisition, where we would go out and visit with landlords and go through the process with zoning. Miguel has been phenomenal. I mean, he's worked with me on a few occasions, basically, and so has Chris, the planner. You know, when you spend this kind of time going through the process with these different locations, you want to get the hearing of the people that are the most important. You know, not that I'm taking that away from you at all, but, you know, the city manager is the most important to me, because I can get to him, we can talk about it, and the city planner. So, end result, since 2018, we've been working on this. I probably have maybe 30 different candidates, well, a little less, I'm sorry, 25 different candidates that all are within the circumference. I want to say some are just outside of the search ring area. I believe you have a copy. Did you give him a copy of the search ring?
Is it this one?
No, not
Oh, the current, yeah. Well,
okay, yeah, not the search one.
okay, I have a copy. You know, when we get to the point, I think that's what's going to end up happening here is that we're going to get to the point of actually, you know, coming back or whatever they choose to do and whatever we choose to do. But to answer your question then, the search ring is only about, boy, that's nice. The search ring is probably a half a mile wide. Because if you'll notice from what you have in your hand, there are 2 other sites that are existing. And the key, the secret, or however you want to look at that, would be they're missing a whole area that the other 2 can't cover. And also not just coverage, but also the idea of taking, when they fill up, because there's so much data and streaming and the voices and the whole business, right? When they fill up, now they have a place to go, which would be the third one. But that's not the primary, that's the secondary part. The primary is to actually cover all those red zones that you're looking at, because there's no coverage there, or very little. So nobody goes, you know, the whole thought process is for 911 and so forth. I don't want to go too far here, that's not fair. This isn't really, this isn't the part, you know, where you're dealing with the site itself. Other than you ask the greatest question in the world, what else could we do? Since 2018, they've been trying. I came in at 2000, just the latter part of 2019, and I've been working on it for a year and a half. I mean, I visited everybody. I've got churches, schools, parks. We actually work with a relationship with Miguel for a certain period of time between, actually I think Andrew and Gail were involved on the legal side, trying to put a lease together with language and so forth. We've tried every bit of what we could do there. There was a difference in the amount that we thought was going to be the terms, and then it kind of changed a little bit, and I think maybe the mayor had some a reasonable, relationship with the whole thing, because that's the picture, right? We had to have the picture. That's to explain the park scenario. The school scenario didn't really work because it wasn't in the search ring. There was some, I want to say cost issues, but money wasn't really the issue. It really wasn't. It was one location where we had to put it, and it's next to kids, and I care so much, I can't do that. And where I'm really close to the residences and so forth, the real question is what can we do to mitigate so that we take away from there? And that was the palm tree, the idea that we were using. And actually the park was a reservoir. Is there a reservoir? What do you call it where you have the water down at the bottom?
Retention basin.
Reservoir. Retention basin. So we hit up, I mean, I can read off the whole thing. Matter of fact, by the time we get with this, I can put a map together that shows you exactly where we went and all the people that we talked to and why they either didn't work or it did work, depending on whether it was T-Mobile or not. Because T-Mobile's RF engineers make the decision. Vertical Bridge has nothing to do with it. It's just the fact that we have to please them or put them in a situation where they actually have their radio frequency that works for all of the people that are living in the area that right now don't have almost any coverage at all. You can see from the map, and that's not fibbing in any way. That's an RF engineer putting it together exactly why they're willing to spend $300,000 or $400,000 on a site to make sure that the coverage is there, which it's not at this point.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just a quick question. So you are saying if this is rejected, based on what you're saying with Vertical Bridge and T-Mobile, if this is rejected, you would have to go back to T-Mobile, or T-Mobile would be forced to then reevaluate into the commercial zones, right?
No, they don't have a way to do that. See, the whole thing is already the existing sites that are there right now cause the search rate that is almost all, if not all, depending on the park and the school. Everything else is residential. So they can't really move around because they already have a mature system built with the existing sites. That's where we get into trouble. That's why I've been working on it for a year and a half. How easy it is to go to a landlord and say, I'm going to give you a certain amount of money for a certain period of time. They do it right away. There isn't any question. But I have to be right on the zoning side and the city side. I have to take all that into consideration. And I've been trying to do that with the churches. I've got 3 churches I've looked at so far. I mean, these are places that couldn't work for one reason or another, probably because there was no square footage capability, if that makes sense to you. It just got so crowded that there was no way to do that. I mean, I did everything I could to try to get this thing right. It came down to this location. And one of the reasons why is because there's this really ugly building, I hope you don't mind if I say that, right next door that he actually owns also. You know, that looked like a market, and at one time it was commercially zoned. And we were actually thinking that would work, but then they changed the parcels. They actually subdivided the parcels right about the time we were going into the application and making it happen. You can see from all the records, you don't see anything right now because nobody's handed that to you. But
Okay, excuse me, sir.
Last question.
yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to take so long.
These 2 other towers, are they the same height and the same strength?
Well, the strength's always going to be the same. We are not allowed to go any more than a certain amount, right? So the strength's really out. The height themselves, basically, it's, and I don't know exactly what those heights are, but whatever those heights are, the RF engineer is requiring, demanding, whatever you want to say, that's the only way he can do it. I'm sorry, the RF engineers can actually get what they call an RF objective, which is basically what we're talking about.
Okay.
That covers the green area. It all says it right there on the
Yeah, I know because I live on that street, and I know that when I call 911, I call through Telcel, and if I ever want the police,
you don't have
I don't know how to get a hold of the police on my street.
No, you
don't. This is a real problem for my neighborhood, you know?
Don't have it.
But I leave it up to council.
Oh.
Mr. Leader, real quick, El Puro C4 transfers it back to us.
Oh, beautiful. God bless. I'm good. On
Calexico,
Now, you understand, we can't shoot our system into Mexico, so.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. We got to move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
No, you're good.
So now, make a motion. Somebody want to make a motion on this? And there's more discussion, right? We ready?
I would like to make a motion to table if possible.
I need more.
More information.
Me too.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is Mr. Reina wants to table it, and second by,
I don't think so.
Yes.
No, I make a motion to move forward.
yeah, but
With
we
the
first,
recommendation
we first
of-
gotta, we
Yeah,
we first
I'm
gotta
sorry.
go to that one first and see if it passes or not. And then we'll address it. Okay, so the motion by Mr. Reina to table this item because it doesn't have enough information, and the second by Mrs. Romo. Okay, so all those in favor? On this, yes, question?
Yeah, you know what, when this came before the planning commission, I happened to be in the audience, and they had a very robust conversation, not conversation, but discussion also. So, and I just want to say that, you know, I just sat there and listened to all the arguments. So, again, this is just me. I stand behind the decision of the planning commission. I think they did the due diligence, so that's just my comment on that.
I'll go ahead and withdraw my motion.
You withdraw the motion? Okay, so the motion is withdrawn. I believe you have a motion now, Mr.
No,
Hernandez,
I'm also with
which is to
the
approve.
planning.
Move motion to approve. And anybody want to second that?
I second.
Mr. Garcia will second that. Okay, any discussion?
Motion approved for the Thursday?
I see a motion to approve
As presented.
staff recommendation.
As presented.
Yeah, as presented per staff recommendation.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, you're okay, okay. So all those in favor? Aye. Aye?
Aye.
Aye, okay, 5-0. Thank you very much. So moving on to item number 14, approval of a master calendar of city council meetings for fiscal year 21 to 2022.
Mayor, we're proposing that this city council consider a full fiscal year of city council meetings. However, there are two recommendations from the city clerk and myself, which is the first meeting in January because of the holiday season break and the fact that staff more than likely is just going to be returning to work. And the second is related to the first meeting in August because that is when our city clerk is engaged with the election nomination period for the general elections of next year. So with that said, that's the request that we have for you.
Okay, I make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second by Mr. Ureña. Discussion? No discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Mr. Hernandez? All those in favor? Aye. So it's 5-0. Thank you very much. Moving on to,
We have comments?
15.
we already voted.
Yeah, so what's
That's passed
No,
already.
ya sé, pero se me figuró ver un
Oh, no, we already done, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to item number 15 as adopted a resolution number 2021. Mr. Figueroa.
Yes, this item came up after we published the agenda. This is an opportunity that stems from the Federal Aviation Administration. It's in a grant in the amount of $22,000 for the city of Calexico International Airport. This is what we consider an over-the-counter grant that requires city council approval. The reason that this is a time-sensitive item that cannot wait is because we need to provide a response by next week. So with that said, it's accepting the money so we can go ahead and implement and use it for airport services here in Calexico.
Motion to approve?
Okay, anybody make motion?
Second? Oh.
Yes.
Okay,
Second.
yes.
Yeah, whatever. Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to item number 16. Mr. Figueroa.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, again, a time-sensitive matter here. What we're looking here as is a subordination agreement with Oryx Real Estate Capital. This is pertaining to the Calexico Family Apartment Project. What's pretty much happening here is that the first loan on the project is expiring. In this case, there is a need for a subordination agreement so the refinance that they're looking to accomplish can get done. One of the good things about this is that the original loan from the redevelopment agency in 2003 for $400,000 will get paid off in addition to the interest it has accrued. So in this case, what's needed is, in order for this to proceed, it requires the city council to accept the subordination agreement.
But it's good for the city, no?
It is, and I do want to point out that this is a redevelopment agency loan for which the city will not see in its entirety the money come, but we will get our fair proportion for the redevelopment trust in Imperial County.
Okay.
What's the percentage?
Motion to approve.
It ranges 20%, sir. It ranges 20%.
20%?
Okay, I make a motion to approve. Second?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hernandez. All in favor, or any discussion? No? All those in
No.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. Thank you. Motion carried. Items for future agenda.
I had two.
Mr. Ureña, go ahead.
For the budgetary amendment, to see the responsibilities for the operator, if we could get it to 50/50, see if that's not being done for it to be proposed. And then the second one is to analyze our services with Community Spectrum. And for that one, I just want to briefly comment. The County of Imperial very recently went through a process in its budgetary process where they actually looked through all of their services and contracts to try to save some money. I think we should do that, piece by piece on basic things like IT. But
Your two items are noted.
But two items.
Yes.
You have a comment on this, Mr. Garcia?
Well, a comment, but more than a comment, also a question. I know in the past, commissions received training. Have they completed the training?
City clerk, please.
No, they haven't completed the training. There will be a second training coming up following the September 1st meeting, where we'll be introducing some ordinances to change municipal code regarding the commissions. So we should be following up with the second training, and then they would be going to they would be able to start their regular commission meetings.
Okay, so early part of September, the second.
I'm expecting,
training.
yes, right after
Okay,
the
okay.
September 1st meeting.
Yeah, because I do want to make sure that it's done as soon as possible, so we can engage, those, commissions. And I think, it's not that I'm going to revisit that item that was pulled, but I think, those conversations need to start happening. So the sooner the better, and that hopefully we can bring back, all the commissions from Measure H committee to bid, everybody. So thank you for that.
Councilman Garcia, I have here noted, given a previous comment you made at the beginning of the meeting, your interest for us to follow up on the partnership with social service clubs as it pertains to the signage, right?
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, Ms. Fernandez, you have anything for a future agenda?
I don't have anything.
You don't have it, thank you. Ms. Ramos, do you have anything for future agenda?
No, ya no.
You don't?
Ya lo tiene.
I only have one item, Mr. Figueroa. There, a while back, we had approved the speed humps over there by Kennedy Gardens. I think 2 out of 3 streets were approved, and just an update on that. Have those been up there, or is it in the process of putting them up?
Yeah, we definitely have an update on that, absolutely.
All right, thank you. Okay, so, you need a motion?
I
Yes,
just
go
forgot
ahead.
something
Go
that
ahead.
came up. Miguel, also, where are we with assistance with, utilities, assistance to individuals? And I bring this up because of the recent discussion that has taken place, and, fortunately, Director Gonzalez left, but I wanted to ask him also in regards to the ACA that went up, and that, I know people are going to struggle, well, all of us are going to struggle, because, again, it's something that is not easily understood, how it's going to go up, or electric bills are going to go up. So I know we had some funds, just an update on that, where we stand. And also maybe we can extend an invitation to Mr. Gonzalez or someone from IID
To talk on that
to
subject
talk
matter?
about that, because I think, starting this month, we're going to see, or we might see an increase, but I don't want to even venture to tackle that explanation of that, how that is going to work. So just like, the director from Health Department, Ms. Angulo came out today.
Yes, yes.
Hopefully we can have someone from there come out and explain.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. I make a motion to adjourn. Anybody second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor, aye. Meeting
Aye.
adjourned.